the show, and Kole will introduce you.
That's good.
That's all there is to it.
All right, man.
All right. All right. Everybody got beverages or what have you?
Yeah.
All right. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
My name is Nick Glauber.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a Cursed favorite.
And this week we are talking about the Chasm of the Abyss and the Giant Memories.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Abyss of Old, I guess is what it's called. Yeah.
Yes.
Dark diving. Every day we're dark diving. And every day we're talking to Nick Glauber. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you may know Nick from Check It Out Comrade, and if you don't know him from that, listen to that show.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Can you describe the show, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. So Gary and I, we come on every 2 weeks. We pick up 2 indie games that we have played and want to talk about. Basically, it's just a conversation between Gary and I that we would have had otherwise, and we started recording them, putting them up, and if you like indie games and you want to hear about some new stuff that's come out or some older stuff that we went back and played, it's a perfect chance to play along with us.
Yeah. It'll help you make your Steam shopping list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or get through the stuff that you've owned for years and haven't played yet.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a bullet point list of what's good about X.
Yeah.
Or what's bad about X, as the case may be. Yeah, thanks, Nick. Nick being on the show isn't special to me. I hang out with Nick all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I live in the same town as Nick. Like I see Nick at least once a week.
Yeah.
So, but it's still nice to have Nick on.
Yeah, I agree.
Glad to be back for Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, yeah. And if you end up getting a PS4, much like you didn't get a PS3 to get on the Demon Souls season, we might see you in Bloodborne Town.
Yeah, I'd love to. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah. So what did we do last time, Cole?
Well, previously, we headed east through the kingly doors to find the horrific Aldea's Keep and the draconic secrets lying beyond. After an encounter with a seemingly ancient dragon, we acquired the Ashen Mist Heart and have really only a vague idea of what it'll do for us. But first, here, we have a brief diversion.
Yeah, a brief and neat and significant diversion, I think. And you know, people who've listened to the show have noticed that we've talked about all of the covenants except for one, because the Souls games tend to have one covenant or one system where it is solely single player based.
Yeah,
and is not, and those tend to end up being my favorite. And this one adds the most content out of them.
Yeah,
there's more to this than there is being a servant of chaos. And this is the Pilgrims of the Dark, or the Pilgrims of the Abyss, rather.
Mm-hmm. Yes, or colloquially known as dark diving, after its master, dark diver Grandal.
Yeah, also known as walking in Memphis. when you go walking in Memphis, you go dark diving in that chasm of old.
Gary, I had to do so much research to figure out what that euphemism stood for. Is that I don't think that's common, is it?
It's not. I think Brayden just made it up. I don't think it's common. Actually, real quick too, on the subject of Brayden Cameron, I just issue a correction. So, longtime listeners who listen to the show may have noticed on the New Londo Ruins episode, Brayden was on that, and he coined the term, or we thought coined the term timey-wimey, and we started saying it for a couple of years. And we did not realize that was actually from Doctor Who. So this whole time, people have I thought that was a Brayden original. You thought it was a Brayden original, but we're actually just doing this Doctor Who quote over and over. Yeah. And I feel like a real dipshit about it.
I feel like we've been fronting, as it were, as Doctor Who fans, which, I don't know if I'm a Doctor Who fan or not because I've never seen the show.
Yeah. I watched the first episode I've ever seen last night, and it was good, but not I'm going to dedicate my life to it or anything. It was fine, but I was wondering whether anybody made reference to Doctor Who things or episodes in notes, people have been feedback, and we just didn't recognize it because we were just I don't know what that is. And then just kind of moved on, and they were just you guys are Whovians, you guys get it. Not a Whovian, I don't know. So Brayden, fuck you.
My favorite thing was being there when you confronted him at Portland Retro Game Expo. It was dude, why are you getting us to talk Doctor Who references by accident this whole time?
Well, the way I knew it was I walked by a vendor who had a poster that was like a TARDIS made up of Doctor Who phrases, and just out of the corner of my eye, I saw like timey-wimey, and I was like, wait a
It was like
minute.
it was just the montage at the end of Saw, except it was every time you've ever said timey-wimey on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Or like Unbreakable. Like it was just like all of the things that set up to get that origin moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I am neither in favor nor opposed to Doctor Who. And I thought that Brayton made up timey-wimey and we were quoting our friend and not quoting the good people at BBC.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, at this point, we can't distance ourselves from it because it's really a hallmark of our interpretation of causality within this universe. So
yeah.
like we're married to that, and
Is
I don't
there-
know
is
that
there
I'm
like
going to
a-
stop using it.
Is there like a Dr. Ware that used Spacey Wacy? Because then we're really fucked.
So that's a joke on Community with Dr. Spacetime or Inspector Spacetime with like,
Okay.
it's not a matter of when it is, but where it is. Like whenever somebody says when or where, he just kind of throws back, "Ooh, it's the other one. Haha, I'm smart."
Okay.
So like
Well,
maybe that's a half example, but
nothing is original ever.
right.
Everything sucks.
Go back to sleep.
Yeah, I just all right, whatever. This is the kind of garbage news that makes me want to yearn for a deeper dark. So
Yeah. So these chasms, right? They bear, like, once you get into them, a striking resemblance to the chasm of the abyss from Ulasil, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lore
Yeah.
around these is that they are the remnants of some ancient dissipated being. This is from the Dark Lurker soul. That being probably being Manus, the father of the abyss. And according to Grandal, these fragments scattered out, but they're starting to grow again, fitting back into kind of the cancer analogy that we came up with back in the Ulasil episodes, right?
yeah. And what's kind of so they're explicitly going back in time. Like when you go into the Dark Chasm of Old, he says that you're going back in time to this area, which is kind of interesting. Like if you like they are there, but you have to go through the portal. And the portal looks very similar to the portal you go through in the beginning of the game, in order to end up in Things Betwixt,
Yeah.
which fits really nicely with the idea of the person in the intro being the older firekeeper, which is a theory going around. That makes sense.
Being the older firekeeper, the one
Or the
from
older Emerald Herald, rather.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And it's kind of interesting, the idea that, like, so in the past, the shards of Manus grew into these kind of landscapes, and then ultimately other shards of that, grew into people. Like the smallest, there's a thing about Nishandra where it says, like, the very fact that it was the smallest shard was the reason why it was the first to take form.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So, like, the larger shards literally formed landscapes,
Yeah.
which is that's super crazy and evocative of an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they form these kind of terrifying landscapes. So like it metastasizes out, like especially these dark kind of caverns here where you're like within just within this corrupt earth, right? With where no light enters or escapes. It's definitely very, very stark visually.
Yeah. And your mission in this covenant is to go bring light to the abyss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like to bring the fire to the dark. Which is kind of interesting, like as a, where like that almost seems contrary to what Grandal would be interested in, but I get the sense of it almost being like an expedition. Like he talks about he's a pilgrim, like this is a expedition. They're checking out this almost archaeological sense to it.
Yeah.
And these fires that you're lighting are just kind of footholds in this very hostile area.
Yeah. Strikes me as almost a Big Hat Logan kind of character in terms of intellectual curiosity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When did you Nick, did you stumble across Dark Diver Grandal in the wild, or did you look him up?
The first playthrough, I ran across all of his spots and met him each time, and then ended up trying the Drangleic one, I think once, and not fully looking up or exploring the whole Covenant. I was just like, oh, this is a cool side thing I'll do at some point, and never did it in my original run. And then started a new run purposely to get caught up for some DLC stuff, and also to redo this stuff that I didn't do originally to come on the show. So I had never fought Dark Lurker. I had never done all the rest of the Dark Chasms. So
He's really well hidden, Dark Tyvo Grandal.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a really thorough playthrough my first time. Just didn't kind of fully explore all the covenants. So I met him each time, just not enough to do every single one of the. I probably didn't even know that I should go back to the other times you meet him in order to go to other chasms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not exactly intuitive that the like the portals in different places would take you to different parts of the chasm or different chasms altogether.
Yeah. Grandale is an interesting guy. Like, he's got an interesting character to him. It's one of the, like, I feel like this was some of the first art that I looked at in the art book.
Mm-hmm.
They got the collector's edition, and I just thought it was awesome. Like, he's in this old timey wheelchair. It's just this crazy old man, and I was like, oh, that's, that guy is going to have some cool fucking secrets. And it's kind of true, but there's not as much to him as I want there to be. Like, he's a proponent of the dark. He is an interesting fight if you attack him, and he's just in favor. The dark is a good thing, and it does kind of like have that side of it. When we talked to Chancellor Welliger earlier, where he was like, a peace that was so profound that it was almost like the dark. Like, it does have that side of the dark that is actually like, peaceful and not tumultuous. Like, it's not the flame trying to reignite in any way.
Yeah. A line in his dialogue, we need the abyss now more than ever, right? Like, so you get the sense that this we he's referring to is the world at large, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always been sympathetic to that, like, that side of the soul's mythology, of like the bright side of whatever the dark ending is, like that the game is not outright condemning giving up to this force. Like, several characters do, and several different games depending on the game. Like, I think in Dark Souls 1, it is probably not the good ending. In Demon Souls, I like the bad ending or what have you. But it's not black and white. Like, it is not just a fight against evil so much. Because everything's about the cycle.
Yeah, I really wish there was more to him. Like, you just reading through his dialogue, it's almost comical. He is to dark what Solaire is to the sun, and that he won't shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he loves that.
He's a single issue voter.
He's probably Solaire all grown up, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can just throw that lore supposition out here. Like, there's really no way he's not. So,
it's just like you check the tank behind every toilet to make sure there's no bomb, and you just talk about every NPC. Maybe you're Solaire. Maybe you're Solaire,
anyone wearing
but
a mask.
Yeah.
And anyone who's wearing a mask or is old.
Yeah.
Could be Solaire.
God.
Or because old-timey-wimey, you need to be old.
Yeah. We don't say that word. Actually, we do. It could be, I mean, Solaire could be, under his helmet could be this guy. Ooh. Who even knows? He gained it's like Professor Xavier getting the ability to walk every once in a while.
Yeah. So these segments are marked by being incredibly difficult, I think, compared to like a lot of the other games. They're very tight, like challenge dungeons, right? They're very, they're very deliberately designed to put you in situations you probably are not spec'd for, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can be spec'd for them. Well, yeah, like, they're not,
but likely and likely not.
I don't know. Like, if you're a ranged character, you're pretty good at these for the most part, I find. Like, you may not be, though. Like, they have a specific thing. What they remind me of is, and they do this, each of the DLCs has a challenge area, and this reminds me of the dry run for that, or it makes me think of that. Like, this is the challenge area of the main game, the same way that the 3 DLCs have their challenge areas. When you're in here, you get invaded by, or not invaded, there are phantoms in this area. The red phantoms who are, explicitly kind of evoke certain things. And we'll kind of talk about those as we go through each of these different areas.
Yeah. And there's one common enemy that pops up throughout, which are these forest spirits who look very similar to the Four Kings, actually. They kind of have this, twisted root-like appearance, according to the strategy guide, and your eyes if you look at them.
Yeah. And also, weirdly enough, a non-phantom version of that shows up in one of the DLCs, which is a lore puzzle that I have not figured out yet.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, well, shit. Okay. Like, and we've gone on length of talking about how worth it is to try to figure out enemy placement in Dark Souls 2. Blah. Yeah. Let's talk about the first one. The way you get these, the kind of the mechanic for this covenant is that you rank up by lighting these fires in these challenge dungeons, and you have to sacrifice an effigy every time you want to go into one. which is kind of a tall price to pay. But you kind of go through these portals that are very similar to the one you first got into. You walk into this black fog and end up in the different ones. So let's talk about the one under Drink Lake.
Yeah. So this one, I think, makes the strongest first impression, honestly, because you start out in this like cave that is filled with water and also very well hidden death drops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah. And you want to bring flame butterflies here. You can't have a torch lit when you get in, and there are waterfalls in this area. Actually, they'll put out your torch.
Mm-hmm.
You try to use it, and they're dark in here. Like, you would like to have a torch. You'd also like to have a shield because they're, again, very difficult. Especially after you make your way through this first thing and you run into the first enemy, which has the name, which again, Dark Souls 2 with their sense of humor, a chip off the old rock, which is just a Havel.
Yeah.
So,
What was your first were you
It's actually
freaked out?
named that somewhere?
yeah, in the strategy guide.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's funny.
I don't know if that's a translator, given license to have fun, but it's as good a name as any.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your first impression of like finding Havel here, Nick?
I actually had forgotten about him being in there from my first playthrough, and then hit it again when I was trying this on this most recent playthrough, and was like, wait, hold on, why the fuck is Havel here? It was just like breaking my head as far as like lore wise stuff went. And then I was like, and then I got wrecked by him immediately entering this dungeon. Like, I was like, oh shit, he is Havel, the whole moveset and everything, and just got smashed into the ground.
Yeah.
That sent my lore bombs or my lore glands tingling in a terrible way. Like, I was just like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Shit, Havel's down here. Shit. And then I looked it up in the, oh shit, guys, Havel's down here. Shit. And then
You better run. Havel's down here.
guys, I got some Havel.
Guys, Havel's over there. Don't go there. He seems pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't go upstairs. Havel's pissed. Hey kids, Havel's early. This was when I was
Havel
also
out front should have
operating.
told you.
Having under the impression that the dragon in Brightstone was Seath.
Yeah.
This was before I got a better look at him. So I was like, oh shit. Like, this is, 100% like I am just in the past of, like, this is Lordran after the Dark took over
Yeah.
is where I'm at. And this is Havel's shade or what have you. But now, I'm not sure if that's true.
It's likely not the case, especially because, of the fact that we find something approximating Havel's set in the gutter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very likely just another sect of knight bishops who took after him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact, again, I keep referencing things from the DLC and I apologize, but you run into another Havel.
Yeah.
There's multiple, somebody else is wearing the armor and he has a meaningful name that kind of suggests that it's not necessarily the real deal.
Yeah. Which,
so
the notion of fakes is a really strong thing in this, in this particular entry in the series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You also find the ghost of Prince's past who uses Ricard's rapier. And this could be the shade of Ricard very easily. It should be noted you have to kill all of the enemies before you can do the thing at the end and get out. So that isn't that big a deal your first time through because you're likely to want to kill all the enemies. When you're making runs up to Dark Lurker, it kind of sucks.
Yeah. This is still the best one to make your Dark Lurker run from, though, because of the bonfire right outside.
And there's only 3 enemies, and none of them are the pretender to the Xanthus throne or whatever, which I think is the hardest phantom that there is in there. Yep. So.
Yeah. But off to the left here, you've got this brazier, which is your goal, here. I'm almost curious, this would have been, this is what I wish the bells were, actually, like a goal that you have to hit. Like, if this was a more PvP focused thing, that would be the way that would be implemented, right? Like, defend this at all costs. I like that this is PvE, but that's like another way they could have implemented it,
It would have been a mechanical implementation, whereas to do it for the bells, you just had to have people agree.
Yeah.
To do it, like, this would be only the players that can get past this PvP dungeon can actually get to this hidden boss.
Yeah. Yeah. And it should be noted that this is, not just, rough-hewn caves. There's actually, architecture down here, like this brazier, didn't just spring out of nowhere. It's in this kind of shrine-looking thing, which again lends a whole complete air of mystery to this place.
There is a Shadow Veil assassin who is just an assassin,
Yep.
as far as we can tell, at the very end. And at the end of each of these, you drop into a pit
Yeah.
to get out. Which, I mean, we're on the record as liking that
Yep.
as a thing. Like, anytime you can force your character to fall down a pit.
Yep.
Into that.
From Silent Hill to New Londo.
Yep. Way into it. There's also, I think, probably the most hidden of the chasms is the one in the Shaded Woods, or at least the one I found last. Just because it's in this grassy area under some wood. And, you don't have any immediate reason to go over there. And the only reason why I found it was because I was down on the lower level with the basilisks and saw the treasure chest.
Yeah.
And knew that there had to be a way to get up there.
In the Berthen pit.
Yeah, that's exactly how I found it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The birth mucus acid.
Yeah.
But
Yep. And this one, not really too much happening in here, right? Like there's not an awful lot remarkable about this particular version of the chasm.
yeah, there's just different monsters.
Yep. If there's anything that makes it stick out visually, it's the fact that I think it's more plant contaminated than the other ones. Like there's a lot of like roots kind of sticking out more so than in the other places.
Yeah, which is interesting if you think about that being because it's located in the Shaded Woods.
Mhm.
Is that how would those things maybe interact?
Yeah.
Which maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Maybe this
but-
actually does reflect some distant past or alternate version of the area that you get into them from.
Yeah, like Manus burst open into all these different areas and then grew into this thing, and the new civilization was built on top of it, or through a portal,
Yeah.
or what have you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you fight some dudes
Yep.
in here. Some more. I think there might be multiple forest spirits in this one. Those things are by far the easiest enemy.
Yeah.
You can fight these things.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
no problem.
They're real squishy.
Yeah. And then just a couple enemies that don't seem to have lore significance. Like they are not clearly people from Dark Souls 1.
Yeah. The Tenebrous Rogue and the Underworld Deadeye, who is a rare ranged invasion. Yeah. And they team up in a way that if you wander too far into that chamber they're in, then the forest spirit gets in on the action, which was my undoing before I figured out I needed to lure them out.
Yeah.
Try luring out.
Yeah. And then finally, if you get the Forgotten Key, there is the side of a cliff, like two cliffs actually, that you have to get down. Or no, it's one cliff, and then the second one is down to get the giants. But you fall off a cliff for some reason in the Black Gulch, and end up in this other area, which I think, for my money, is the toughest one.
Yeah.
Because the initially there's the Abyss Ironclad, who power stances, and you very rarely run into an enemy that power stances thing.
Right.
Two Drake Keepers, giant great hammers.
Yeah, and you probably haven't, like, if you're playing through the first time blind, you probably haven't figured out what power stancing means or done it yourself.
Yeah.
So when he starts dropping some strange science on you, it's very easy to be caught off guard.
Yeah. And then Pretender to the Xanthus Throne, which is looks like Xanthus King Jeremiah from Dark Souls 1, and throws lots of what's that, Flame Swath?
Yeah,
That really, really nasty, and Forbidden Sun. Like she's Forbidden Suns and Flame Swaths at you all day long.
The second toughest pyromancer invader in the game.
Yeah. Yep. So.
Yeah. And there are two sets of these guys, too.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is probably the biggest number of enemies you have to fight in one of these things. So this is probably the worst one to make your Dark Lurker runs. You will make Dark Lurker runs. Because all the time you're doing these, you're leveling up with the Covenant. And I also want to mention too, if you're playing a Hexcaster, the Covenant Ring is excellent.
Oh yeah,
for this, it boosts damage and it takes a little bit of health every time you attack, but it's not very much.
Yeah.
So that's a must-have for a Hexer.
You were saying that you level up each time. I actually kind of freaked out because you don't get a level for completing your second chasm.
Right.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's the first one, the 3, and then Dark Lurker.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your reward for those first couple levels are just resonant soul hexes, which are not spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good spells, but you just get.
You can buy them elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah. They're not exclusive, right?
Yeah. MBD.
It's a timed exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. You can the Resident. It's on the Falcon 360 for the first year, and then eventually it gets released to Dark Diver PC. Um, but regardless of once you've lit all three things, when you fall on that final thing, you maybe think like you're going to go back to Dark Diver Grandal, but oops, like super hard challenge boss for Dark Souls 1, Dark Lurker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who I really, we were talking about it off mic, and I'm not going to, be a real alpha boy about this, but I'm the only one in the group who's beat him, and I like this fight a lot. Like, I actually think this is a really good fight.
I like it, but it escalates so much in difficulty in the back half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The first half of it is about learning what each move looks like in the windup, and the second half is just if I have all these different puzzle pieces, what two together will allow me to get in some damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a serious waiting game, and you can't mess up at any point in it.
Yeah, yeah. It is probably my favorite like non-duel fight in Dark Souls 2. Like it's he's a caster, so we should describe what he or she is. It looks like an angel.
Yep.
Like it is. The color scheme is not what you necessarily would expect. It's a cloaked figure with 4 arms and angel wings.
Yeah.
And the twist to Dark Lurker is that halfway through the fight, he or she splits into 2.
Yeah. And we should also note it's just dude sized. Like you would imagine, angel resting in the center of the chasm is probably some gigantic demon. No, like it's just floating around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, looking real spooky. Like I really like the design on this because it looks of a part with everything else that we know is kind of like abyss touched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't make heads or tails of the lore around this other than the abyss did it.
Yeah, there's I've read a couple theories, none of which are great. People talk about like, so if all of the 4 great lords have a part of the original Lord Soul, people say that this maybe has part of the new or the 4 Kings soul because of Abyss and because she is able to split.
Okay.
The same way that the 4 Kings, there are multiple 4 Kings, like they don't split.
Yeah.
But there are multiple 4 Kings. So that's what I've read.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else wrote like a really long thing that I can't remember exactly, but was about how this is not somebody who's of the abyss. It's somebody who was exploring the abyss because there's a shrine that will turn you human in Shrine of Amana has a figure on it that looks a little bit like Dark Lurker without wings.
Okay.
According to them, I have to look at that shrine again. I was doing this like kind of last minute before we started recording, and see if that seems to hold water for me.
Is that the skeleton couple that's burning inside of it, or is it just like an etching above it?
I just read it. I haven't gotten a chance to go back and look.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd be satisfied pretty much with anything. I mean, we have no idea what happened to the Dark Soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, like, there's nary a scrap of humanity to be found. There are scraps of life to be found, but no scraps of humanity. I could see that being, a manifestation, like the whole chasm of the abyss and everything else that became like Nashandra and company. Maybe that is like a manifestation of it, but this is explicitly not, a Nashandra, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a non-Nashandra. Especially, again, one of the things that the DLC does, actually answer really well as they start talking about what those, there's more than one shard and starts casting some light on that. And this doesn't fall in with that. Like, having this be separate from, Nashandra doesn't mean as much, but having it be separate from all 4 of the other characters we meet means a lot more.
Yeah.
It's like saying how when Zelda 2 came out and being like, Zelda 2 is really different. And it's like, well, it's half the games, and then every game since then has been like Zelda 1. And it's like, okay, that one is the weirdo one.
Yeah.
So, or Mario 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Same thing.
NES sequels were weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Castlevania 2.
Yeah. Huh. Anything else?
No, those are all the 2s I can think of.
Okay.
So
yeah. So when we this is it's a ranged fight mostly, right? Like most of the Dark Lurker's attacks are spells of all of the different varieties, right? So she casts from every school, and close up she just has this Soul Blade attack, right?
Which is what you want her to do.
Yeah.
Like if you can get her to do that, that's her least damaging thing and the easiest thing to dodge. The real trick to Dark Lurker, I think the hardest thing for her to dodge is her portal attack.
Yeah.
Like she sets up 2 portals in the air and throws a dark orb into one, and it comes out the other. And that's the trickiest thing to get out of the way of, I think, especially when there's 2 Dark Lurkers.
Yeah. And either of them could be doing that at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or mixing it up with that fireball spell, which you have to run laterally to Dark Lurker to dodge that, and that limits your options of getting out of the way of the soul bomb
Yeah.
thing. They share 1 hit point gauge.
Like
it should be
the Four
noted.
Kings. Yeah.
Yeah, like the 4 Kings. So you don't have to kill both of them. It's not like a man-eater or what have you. So if you can just concentrate on one, you can do that. And, for those of you on the show or listening to the show, we're having a hard time with Dark Lurker. Lobos did it with the ladle. You guys can do
Yeah,
it.
well, he's fucking Lobos.
Yeah, he's Lobos. That's not fair.
I know. Well, you guys have more than a ladle, though. Like there's some kind of mathematics between like you to Lobos as whatever weapon you're using to ladle, and just make sure that comparison is favorable.
For how many times we've said that Dark Souls isn't about the equipment, it's about the skill of the person playing.
Yeah.
And the patience of the person playing. Like,
Yeah.
How deep have you managed to get into Dark Lurker, Nick? Like
I think I got it down to like maybe about a quarter health. The first half is like, super easy. I've basically got everything down. Manages to catch me with an off portal every now and then, just because the AoE on that once it hits is hard for me to dodge and takes like half of my life. But once it splits, it's basically game over for me.
Yeah. Yep. Same. I've like about a third, I think I've got her down to. So.
Yeah, I'm just giving you guys shit. I don't actually.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing you because it makes me feel like a big man.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like a real Havel of the block.
Havel from the block.
Yeah, he's just Havel from the block.
All right, writing that down as a T-shirt idea.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'm still Havel of the Rock.
Yeah, still Havel on the rock. He's the boy. But when you kill him, it's weirdly like non-ceremonial at all. Like he just dies and you can jump into a pit.
Yeah.
And go back to Dark Diver, which means you fully leveled up and you get some cool loot. You get life drain, or you can use his soul to get life drain patch, which is an awesome spell. Like that's crazy powerful because it goes through walls and stuff. So if there's a guy around a corner, you can, and enemies, PvE enemies will walk into it like nothing. So you can trick somebody into kind of following you, put down this life drain patch, and it'll do a serious number on just about anybody, or bosses that don't move. You can just kind of stick the life drain patch on them, and it's great.
It's also used a lot for trolling.
Exactly. Yeah,
because it'll damage friendlies, so you can throw it down when you've been summoned and just totally kill the people who summoned you.
Ruin somebody's day.
Yeah.
Yep.
You also get the Climax Hex. Yep, and the Xanthus set, which I don't know if that links the dark to Jeremiah or Old Monk or whatever,
or
it might just
Lovecraft
be
mythos, or
like I think that maybe he just found it from the previous explorer who went down there. It's like, hey, here's this thing I found. Same thing with the Dragon Chime, which I like its description a lot. Like it's something that sat there for for a very long time, but still remained pure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that the Dragon Chime wasn't the best hex chime.
Yeah, that's
like
Kathos, right?
Yeah, Kathos is really great. The Dragon Chime is good, but it's not the best. And I really wanted like the ultimate hex. Like if you're playing a hexcaster, the Abyss is a really, it's the thematic climax to your character build. Getting climax and getting a life drain patch, and just having kind of like a chime, like I'll just put this with my other chimes I don't use.
Yeah,
is somewhat less fun. And Climax, which you get, is a really interesting spell because all the resonant spells sap some of your souls, and Climax takes all of your souls. So it is like a real PvP fuck you spell, and or like a last resort spell. Like if you fought a boss and you die against him and before you pick up your souls, you can use like a Brave Warrior soul or whatever to get the 5,000 souls you need to cast Climax effectively and just do insane damage.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm real disappointed I wasn't able to pick those up because I'm playing a Hex run. I want both of those. Like, I want to be able to use the cool stuff he gives you, but
Go back when you're a little bit stronger too. Like you just got to Drang Lake, right? Like
yeah,
you're kind of
it
low
was
level in that
immediately
shit.
as soon as I got to Drang Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go back like near the end game, and I bet you'll have a better time of it.
Yeah. I don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So it is a little bit of an anticlimax for Hexcasters, but we had a good ride while it lasted. So
Climax is the anticlimax.
yeah, pretty much. Is that the spell that you see whenever you see those YouTube videos of like massive hexer damage build? Look what I can do, 9999 damage.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the Pilgrims of the Abyss, which I like a lot. Again,
Yeah.
I was real into finding that stuff on my first playthrough. Not least of which because I thought I had done everything in the game. So it was fun to like, oh, I actually haven't done everything in the
Yeah.
game. I have this cool content chunk.
Yeah, it's cool that it's like slightly hidden away and stuff.
Yeah.
Gives you a little extra bonus when you're ready to go in and find Dark Diver and actually go through all those levels. I like that it's hidden and actually kept away from plain eyes, essentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is a great episode for people who like the new area sound.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true because there's lots of new areas you're gonna.
Like,
I'm not gonna cut them all in or anything.
damn it.
Yeah.
Oh.
You almost got me. Well, I can't. I found like a zip file that was Dark Souls ringtones.
Yeah, that
And
thing's
it has
terrible.
the "you died" and the but it doesn't have the new area sound.
Yeah.
And I don't want to attempt to capture it or anything and then transfer the video to audio and
Yeah.
all the jazz. I may or may not do that.
Mhm.
So if I didn't do it, it doesn't mean I love you any less, people who are listening. I love you all equally. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we are brought to you by Duckstream 2014. If you go to Duckfeed.tv/Duckstream, find all about the 24-hour gaming marathon live stream we're doing to benefit the Transactive Gender Center. It's a great cause. Dig deep and tune in on November 21st, 6 p.m. PST to November 22nd, 6 p.m. PST for all of the, quite frankly, pasty white dudes having fun that you can handle. If you want to see people who are white and probably out of shape play video games, you have a lot of options. I'm the first person to admit that. However, we hope that you choose to look at my particular doughy flesh over, say, your asshole Jontrons and your, other doughy white guys. So choose the correct doughy white guy, choose Duckstream, and choose Transactive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how weird it is that you spend the lead up to the end of this game going back in time into people's memories.
Yes. Yeah. So we're back on the critical path to the end of the game. Yeah. And this is like when you talk about going back in time to memories, that is exactly what the Ashen Mist Heart does. Right?
Yeah.
Delving
It had
back.
one job.
But it has one job, and it doesn't explain. It says, "Oh, you're in this ethereal realm," or it's like, "Oh, you're reliving memories in some kind of Assassin's Creed Animus style." No, you're actually going back and affecting time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you are monkeying around with causality, right? The description of it says, "Manifestation of ashen mist received from the ancient dragon. The magic of the ancient dragon allows one to delve into the memories of the withered."
Some withered. Like the specific withered. Because there's lots of withered you can't die too. Well, just like there's like that one giant tree in the Forest of Fallen Giants you can't go into.
Oh yeah,
And there's other dead things you run into that you can't go into as well.
yeah. I'm just reading the description.
No, I know. I'm just
Okay.
I wasn't criticizing you. I was criticizing the description.
Okay.
I was criticizing Epic Name Bro for translating it weird. That's not true. A weird mechanic is that you can only spend a certain amount of time in the past. It hasn't.
Yeah.
It never came up for me in my regular playthrough, but I bonfire ascetic to do the boss fight that's in the past again, and it came up. The little warning message came up in the middle of the fight, which I didn't think could happen, and it was real stressful because I'm sitting there just kind of whipping that guy's legs, doing very very little damage, and then it said, the mist starts to fade or whatever the warning, the 5-second warning is, and I was like, oh shit! But I managed to kill him in time,
Yeah.
but just barely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. the time there is limited, so you don't run into yourself from a previous run.
Exactly. You don't just get to stay there and just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna live out here until I get to the future.
Yep. Yeah. So the time travel in this is functionally very similar to the time travel from the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, wherein you go back and fulfill the legend of Artorias, right?
Yeah, and in this case, you are going back and actually making a real effect on history, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Which we will get to.
Yep, and it's not just you who's going back either.
Yeah, which is again a weird detail. Benhart, who we kind of glossed over every time we ran into him, the Juice from Jugo, he goes back in time too.
Yep,
this guy goes everywhere. Like he shows up at the DLCs. He shows like he's a time traveling fool. Like, what's up with Benhart?
Yeah, he's one of the two people who can help you with the end of the game too, right?
Yeah. Him and Vengarl. And he's way better than Vengarl. He's actually because Vengarl sucks.
Yeah.
As an NPC summon, which is disappointing because he's so badass. But So this is a guy from Jugo. He is super proud of this Blue Moon greatsword he has. And he talks about it all the time. Like every time we met him, he's just been like, I got the sword. But like a lot of people start hinting that it's fake. Magarold talks about it, and the Armorsmith talks about it, and everyone's like, hey, this guy's a fool. And it's interesting to talk to him. Like, I don't know if he is fooling himself or fooling us with that, or what's going on with that.
Yeah. To what end? You know?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
You know, to build himself up, to be to feel like a big man.
To feel like a big Havel on the block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is it actually, because he keeps claiming that the sword can only be welded with someone, or can only be welded by someone with the power to hold it. That was like the legend that's been passed down along with the sword.
Yeah.
Through his family, and so he's like, I can wield the sword and I'm good with it, therefore I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And that's probably the reason why he doesn't go hollow. Right? Like why he is so persistent and, you know, just prolific throughout this game is like, oh, that's his focus. Like, even if he, you know, intellectually doesn't believe it, like having this symbol of his family's honor and like, okay, I am strong as long as I have this thing. It's like his Linus security blanket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you he does believe it. How, like, so in kind of theming with Lucatiel, like the NPCs of Dark Souls 2 have really cool setups and then kind of a little bit fail to deliver. Like, you know, I like Lucatiel a lot, but there's not as much to it as any of the, you know, it's not as interactive. What if there was an option, like you complete all of Benhart's things and then you have the option to tell him if his sword is fake?
Oh, shit.
You know, and you could either like let him keep believing a lie, you know, or you could like, and he lives, or you could totally crush his belief. Yeah, exactly. Just like unmake him, and then he ends up hollow and attacking you in another place.
He just immediately goes hollow. It's like the end of Crusaders.
Yeah.
Last Crusade. Yep.
Yeah.
He chose poorly. Yeah. I like that. No, okay, so you only get that if you're in New Game Plus, or if you Bonfire Ascetic, get the Pale Drake Soul and make the real one.
Oh yeah, and then show it to him.
Like if you walk around by him with that out, he attacks you.
Man, I'm gonna go try that.
You calling me small, bro?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but like I just think that would have been a real poignant end for him. Like you have like 2/3 or 3/4 of like a really poignant story. This guy who comes from a culture of bravery, he was told like, hey, you know, only the ultimate badass can wield this here, you know, and he's like, oh, I can wield this. I must be great. And it's kind of a shitty weapon. Like he pushes through, like he gets as far as you do. The only excuse for him to be back in the past is that he also went and got the Ashen Mist Heart, which means he went through the kind of challenge of the Dragon Shrine and went through Aldias and did all that stuff. Like that's almost a really good, complete, sad story.
Yep. Except at the very end, he gives you the sword.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, that also. Yeah. Which is like, oh great, I got a fake sword. That's kind of underwhelming and like hollow.
Yeah. He's almost like a Joe character, right? Like he was put where he was like right near the beginning of the game to like bait people who knew what that sword kind of looked like into trying to kill him and get the and get the fake one, right?
Yeah.
You know, like.
And like, I wonder if that it was a gameplay thing where like he was set up just as a joke character for that, and then they didn't have time to design like a straight up Sunbro to help you with all these fights, because he is the most summonable NPC in the game. Like he's summonable for like 7 fights, 6 fights. Like he's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was like they just like, oh, we'll just have Ben Hart, again.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to like try to actually cast motivations on developers, but it is a little bit disappointing. And I really wish that there was a more satisfactory end to his story.
Yeah. Nick, like, have you ever been able to like get to the end of his story? Like, have you gotten him to show up at the memories?
I've seen him in the memories, I think. I don't think I actually finished him out in the final fight. But I've definitely done a lot of the fights with him and got him pretty close to finishing out his story.
Yeah. That's a pretty major gripe that I have with this game, actually, is the way that it does NPC quest lines as compared to, Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
Like, even at its most...
The surviving factor?
Yeah, the surviving factor. Even at its most baffling, Sigmaier's quest was still achievable.
Yeah.
Like this, like the deck is really stacked up against you, and I think that combined with the aforementioned kind of lack of pathos around a lot of these characters, like any kind of real emotional payoff, kind of makes me really, really miss that. Like they feel less like fixtures in the world and more like just kind of occasional diversions, right?
Yeah. I'm way with you on the second point. The first point, like to me, keeping Ben Hart alive for 3 fights seems easier than knowing that I need to go down to the Ash Lake to find the end of Sigmaier. Like that seemed a little bit too esoteric to me. But the fact that it's so unimaginative, like swings way too far in the other direction. Like it is an oversimplified quest line from maybe something that was a little bit overcomplicated. Because I would have never, there's not a million years would I have figured out how to keep Sigmaier alive if I didn't read about it online.
Yeah. So how do you simplify that without losing the mystery, right?
Yeah. And again, I would like the just keeping him alive during fights doesn't bother me that much if it would like maybe one character, that's the point of him, and it plays into the character. Like Ben Hart would have been a great character for that because he's trying to prove himself as a warrior. And if you can keep him alive, he has proved himself as a warrior and you get some kind of character climax for him, as opposed to what they actually did, which is not as strong. Yeah,
Lucatiles have a much less strong flavor for that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, she's a cool character. Like, she's really strong, but there's no keeping her alive doesn't add into like her story at all. Has no narrative significance. I guess other than people who are alive can talk to you and people who are dead cannot.
And reveal some story, but not, anything really relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
missed opportunity.
Definitely. A little bit of a bummer. So this is an optional memory, but I feel like it's short enough to kind of wedge in here.
We should talk. This is the wrap up episode. Like we're doing everything we do before we hit to the Throne of Want. So
yes, yeah. The dragon memory, right back down in Brightstone Cove, Seldora. If you go back to the Seath, Airsat Seath, pinned up to the Freya ceiling.
The writhing ruin.
Yeah. If you go to the crystal mass underneath them, you're going to be able to go back into the memory of an ancient dragon, like legit.
It looks like just like a big calcified goober. He has that strand of spit coming from his mouth, and it just solidified in a super gross way. Like I would not want to touch whatever that was.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into the memory of that spit and like just find out when it was in his lungs. But so this is really evocative, and there's not too much to it. You're in this weird like rocky beach area that's really beautiful, and there's a big dead dragon.
Like beached, you can tell that it just kind of landed face first, right there. And there's really no indication of how far back you've gone, right?
Not remotely.
Not remotely. I mean, this area looks vaguely like Ash Lake. This could be like the time before, in ancient times. My supposition, and why not? This is one of the dragons that was, killed by Gwyn, right? Like in that initial war,
right.
back when the ancient dragons were still, alive and kicking it.
Yeah, doing it well.
Yes.
Back in the day, but they had no dignity. No dignity. That very well could be, but there's nothing to actually. Point that out, which I'm not just saying that to criticize you. I'm just saying I wish that there was more to the scene.
Well, that's also like the only one of the only times that dragons were alive too.
Yeah. like real dragons, as opposed to the dragons that may or may not be dragons that we have in the present time. You get a soul. You get the ancient dragon soul from this, which again the ancient dragon doesn't drop, which leads which very well could be that the ancient dragon is some kind of construct, given that we mentioned that it drops the giant soul in the last narrative episode.
Yeah. And you either need to wait for the timer to go out or inspect that soul area again to get out.
Yep.
Or do what I did and just use the feather.
Yeah, or just feather on out, feather through time. So that's like a kind of a cool little diversion. But the main meat are these three giants that you can go into, which I like that we're going back to these areas that we were at the beginning of the game. And one of the things this whole section does that I really laud Dark Souls 2 for, I mean, we giveth and taketh away, like everything that's kind of disappointing. Like, I love these memory scenes because something's happening.
Yep.
Like, Dark Souls is all about archaeology. Like, you are going to an area after everything has gone to shit. This is the first time in any of the games where you are somewhere when things are going to shit. Like, there are active agents in all of these areas doing things.
Fighting each other before they decide to fight you.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like, I really love that.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
And it's also fun to kind of compare past and present versions of this of this area.
Yeah, which pays off in a big bad way.
Yeah.
So also pretty cool. Like, you go into these. So in order to get to these memories, you have to find their corpses. As we mentioned way back at the beginning of the season, these are those tree-like crucified fixtures that are kind of like peppered throughout the forest of fallen giants. Specifically, the one near Pate, and then also there are others. There's one more behind a king door, and then there's one up behind the pursuer, right? And you have to go in and activate the Ashen Mist Heart. And something that's kind of a neat little touch is this isn't just memory of Giant 1, memory of Giant 2, memory of Giant 3. These are named characters.
Yeah.
Right? These are things that have names but not faces.
Yeah, and that's the big piece of counter evidence in my mind when people are kind of casting suppositions about who the giants were or saying whether the giants are like forms of mindless golems. It's like, well, no, they have names. Like, yes, only a couple of them wear clothes and use weapons and stuff, but like they have names.
Yeah.
This was an advanced enough culture to be literate, to have, so I don't, there is a connection obviously between the golems and the giants somehow, but it's not that.
Yeah.
Even though the fact that they both all have no faces.
Yeah.
Don't be racist. Don't be facist.
Yeah, I mean, my explanation for that, at least the one that I believe, is that when they made the golems, they made them look like the giants in order to make a mockery of them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or the thing, if what Vendrick stole was the ability to make golems, maybe that's those are the only kind of golems it can make.
Yeah.
It's a separate thing than the puppeteering that Mytha does.
I got this microwave at the Goodwill, but it only has the popcorn function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the memory of Vamar.
Yeah. This one starts you like pretty much right in the shit. Like, you're underneath the fort, and you pretty much immediately run into Captain Drummond. No relation.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is cool. Like, this is a legendary figure. And, if you're anything like me, the first shield you found with 100% block was the Dragon Lake shield, which is owned by Captain Drummond.
Mm-hmm.
And he's lore significant, and you can actually summon him too, which is cool. Like, again, just that good feeling of like fighting besides legendary heroes.
Yeah. He knows he's about to die, so he's willing to question his king and his commander. He has no idea why Vendrick did the thing that he did. I don't know why I turned into Christopher Walken there. But he says something pretty interesting, actually, which makes me question kind of the timescale that all of this operated under. After he gives his quick history lesson, he drops the line, "My father and his father both fought giants on these very lands."
Yeah.
So, like, is this a struggle? Like, is this giant war something that lasted generations?
Yes, or were there giants there before, and that's why you find a couple of them in the abyss, or why, like, the the obelisks in Majula says something like when the giants returned from across the sea or something like that. It has some language that can imply that they were here before they came to fight. So it definitely casts some light on that. I like to think that it is a generations long war.
Yeah.
because it has such narrative significance, it has to be a big deal. Yeah, he gives you his helmet too, which is the missing piece of that armor. It's the one part that didn't go back into the future. And the reason why is because he gave it to you in the past.
Oh yeah.
Which is interesting. So you go through here and a giant bursts through the door.
Yep.
Starts smashing through the walls.
Almost
and you actually
certainly killing you.
Yeah. If you're not expecting it after those ogres and Aldias. Should talk a little bit about how the past is just full of resources.
Yep.
Like this is where you get bonfire ascetics and fire seeds and great hero souls like left and right. Like there's just tons of awesome shit in the past.
Yeah. And because of the nature of that, you can aesthetic into that, right? You can pump this up and just go back and farm.
Especially the third one, which has an aesthetic in it. So you can literally just loop and just kill the boss of this area over and over and over and just get unlimited souls.
Yeah.
I think there's an aesthetic in Vamar as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I believe it. I knew about the one in J, but the my shameful memory is the memory of Vamar and Oro I didn't know were things my first playthrough on the PS3.
Oh.
I just went through the critical path one because it's behind a king door and never thought to go visit the other ones.
Okay.
Because I'm a dope. But I went after when I played it again.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you get out, of this tunnel, you start actually fighting according to Hoyle giants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're tough, but not insurmountable, right?
Yeah. They fight in groups. You can kind of see what their army structure is like. Like there are different kinds. There are the kind of captains, the ones that use weapons. The nude ones that don't use weapons, and then there are the pyromancer ones. So they're sophisticated enough to use magic at the very least too.
Yeah. Even if it is the primitive magic of barbarians of the swamp.
Am I right?
Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
High five.
When you're right, you're right. Fuck swamp dwellers.
But this kind of leads you out. So it's kind of nice seeing this kind of alleyway area that has the rooftops on either side, because it kind of indicates, this actually is a fortified area, like a dwelling. It almost looks like a market square or something like that.
Yeah. So you kind of just have to make your way through here. You can either go across on the rooftops or on the ground. It is worth probably, once you've done this once, fighting everything, it's probably worth running past these guys, which you can pretty easily do and is advised because they're tough. And eventually you just find a giant who's laying back and you inspect his dick and get his soul. You go right into his lap. They look like collapsed Hulks. Yeah, that's where the soul, the dick is the heart of the soul.
Yep.
Then why do you find Vendrick's soul in that little room?
Yep. It's because the chair is the dick of the furniture.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cole, there are some questions you shouldn't ask.
Oh, well, I flew too close to the knowledge, son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. What's kind of cool is that these, if you're proceeding through these kind of in the order as intended, where you find the giant that gets you out of here is a little bit of a hint of like, okay, where does the next one correspond to? So it's a little bit of a like leapfrog kind of thing.
I never noticed that.
Not exactly,
that's
but like it does give you a little bit of a through line through them.
That's cool. I didn't pick up on that either.
Yeah. Again, just I love the idea of seeing this, when it was a functioning place as opposed to a ruin,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The next one's probably my favorite one as far as a level goes, the Memory of Oro, which is the most complex of these, where you start out in this kind of garrison, and you are actually on the human side, like you're in a human fortification.
Yeah.
Here, you're going to have to fight a bunch of these Drang-like soldiers in the back. But this is where Benhart is just being a goof.
Yeah.
As we mentioned.
Yeah, and this is the one that you get to. It's not behind the pursuer. I forget. No, the first one was behind the pursuer. This one is by Pate.
Yeah.
No. This one,
Yeah.
Oro is behind the pursuer.
Yes, and this is this you talk to him out. You talk to Benhart outside to get him inside. Okay, cool.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
There's a bunch of Pharos contraptions.
I love
Here.
these things.
Well, I like them too. But what's interesting is like that also has a strong suggestion for the timeline of Pharos too.
Mhm.
Like we've never, we've kind of placed what we think Pharos is, but that also puts in a chronology, which is especially interesting if this is a decade or a generations long war. You know, that Pharaohs at least had a chance to make these tricks and traps and doors and stuff back in the day.
Yeah. So like he didn't just retrofit these contraptions on in a more recent time after this place fell.
Yeah.
Like they were, you know, or they're at least as old as the building itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's the real straight up fuck you in here.
Yep. You open one to reveal an illusory door, which is pretty cool, right? And then you go through there. There's another one that will just deploy a saw blade to come hurt you.
Yep. And I don't even think, like, if you're at this point in the game, it's not going to kill you. It is literally just like a go fuck yourself. You know?
Yeah.
Pharaoh's is protecting this iron set.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Here's a fuck you for the road.
Yeah, exactly. Take a flying fuck at the moon, says Pharaoh's.
Yeah. If you head back down, it's a little bit frustrating that the royal soldiers fight you.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that you are a strange person, probably wearing a gigantic yellow hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Wearing your future clothes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say, isn't Drummond kind of a little hostile at first too? Like, who you definitely don't belong here. Who are you? And then because he's on death's door, he kind of just rattles off on you anyway.
Yeah. He says you don't have the look of a mercenary sort. Like, so.
Yeah. So maybe that's noticed by all the other soldiers as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Forsooth, why dost thou shoes pump up?
Yeah. Yeah, it is it could just be like also you're coming up from behind them from an area that they knew there wasn't a way to get there.
Dude in? Yeah.
Yeah, like just like, oh shit, you know. And they fight you like that. And it's interesting too because there are tons of ballistas here, and you can use them to good effect at a couple places. Either shoot humans or shoot giants.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the other thing I really like as far as a little piece of environmental kind of storytelling is through all the memories, the humans are clearly losing.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do anything, the humans will slowly lose all of these fights. Which is borne out in the future where this area
not even
is
all that slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting stomped. And you know, it bears out like the future's a ruined fort where the humans fell. You know, and these same people you're seeing now are the hollows that you fight in the future.
Yeah. Same armor and everything.
Yeah.
So
Super
you get to
cool.
kill him twice.
Exactly. It's like Brad Chickenheart Vickers in Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Dies in Resident Evil 2 and 3.
Yeah. If you head back down, you kind of go out into this massive town square area that is really just a killing floor. Or like if you head straight out, there, you know, the pyro giants are just going to fry you. So it, like, in order to clear this area, you kind of need to go from the top down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it's just a matter of getting up on the scaffolding and rolling around. And there are some good weapons up there, like the blossom shield.
Yeah. Which it does stamina regen, which is rare in Dark Souls 2. And you essentially just get to the end. There's an elite giant at the end, but again, you just have to go inspect that lap real quick. And as long as you look at lap, you can get out of there. You know, at least even if you die at that point, you still have the giant soul.
Remember that documentary about text adventures? Get lap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the memory of Jake.
Yeah. So this is the money shot, so to speak. This is the money
lap
shot
to get to the money shot. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is the gigantic glowing wad at the end of this memory. This is the one that you have to do.
Yeah.
And you can tell because it's behind the King's Ring door in the Forest of Fallen Giants, just outside of the area down below the Concordant Crossroads or what have you.
Yeah.
And there's just a short hallway. There's nobody, you know, nothing there, just a fog door. And you can summon either Benhart or Drummond. And again, you are in a cool battle taking place. Like there are giants on these palisades, and there are gigantic fireballs that you should watch out for on your way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is the only one of them that you actually see the giants kind of getting owned in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because they're getting owned by the fireballs. We know the giants are coming from across the sea. So who is laying siege to these guys? Is this friendly fire or is it, I don't know.
It's still there.
Yep.
Yep, it's the Solar Navy.
It's just him.
Yep, his army of sunfish.
It's him in a paddle boat.
Yep. Just going in a circle. Like a 2-man paddle boat, just going in a circle. Shaped like a swan.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, it's the saddest Navy ever.
Yeah.
Oh man. You're gonna recognize this pretty much right away as the rampart where you fight the pursuer when a gigantic head starts rolling down the pathway.
Yep, a big instant death head.
Yeah.
Which is a real kind of godsend because it kills these giants. Unless you run up. Because in the distance, I love seeing the giant lord just owning fools, down at the end. Initially, because he's huge, he's dressed in clothing, he has a gigantic sword. Super cool. And you still have to avoid the fireballs on the way up. And it's kind of interesting, like this boss arena is this long hallway where huge sections of it are on fire a lot of the time. Like that's a weird little constraint that we haven't seen where like you want to fight him in this corner because the other areas are often on fire.
Yeah. I don't even consider parts of the run up to be part of the arena, honestly.
In the last fight I had, the giant lord kept like edging out towards that way and backed up into it, and he never got hurt, but I went over there to fight him, and then I got hit by fire and got stun locked. So like he can make his way to that area.
Yeah, most of the times where I fight him, I'm standing up on that little platform by him and like baiting him up to it. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's there's like kind of two ways. So this is the giant lord, which we didn't message or mention. There's kind of two ways to fight him. You can either get up on this platform Kole talked about and bait him into swinging his sword down and either hitting him with spells or hitting his hand. And he does so, or hang out by his feet.
Yeah.
And attack him there.
Yeah, not too hard of a fight. I had a decent time my first run just doing pure melee against him.
Yeah.
He's got some easy, predictable attacks, so.
Yeah. Very few attacks. Like his patterns are really easy to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say the big payoff for this is once you put 2 and 2 together and realize this is either the second or first time you've killed this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way I just happen to like more is that this is the last giant. Like you don't actually kill him. And that is why when you first run into him, he hates you that much.
That's why I said it the second or first time, because this would be the first time that you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second time when you show up and he just looks at you and just screams and the screen goes red and ends up tearing off his arm to try to kill you, like it makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And it plays into
awesome.
that, like, it's really cool. And like plays into that thing I keep saying how like the underwhelming bosses of Dark Souls 2 exist in contrast of other bosses. So like this is the first boss in the game is the last giant, and he's a real pushover. The giant lord is not, he's not hard, but he's harder than that. And that's because this is that boss, or that is this boss after, years and years and years of decay and atrophy. Like no wonder like one of his attacks is just to fall down on his face.
Yeah.
And
it gets you back to that dignity point, right? Like he is, he's holding a grudge, yes, but goddamn, has he been nursing that for a long time? Like this is a noble thing.
Yeah. Yep. And because he is the Lord, like he is the king, or at least some kind of stature of this culture that like we have seen is a real culture, like is not to be dismissed. Super cool. Like I like that a lot. Like when I first put that together, I was real happy.
Yeah.
That like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it kind of makes sense geographically too, a little bit, because the where you fight the last giant is several floors below.
Yeah.
This, but you can imagine just kind of the area kind of collapsing or his corpse falling off the edge, or being dragged down there and impaled on that gigantic stone, as a means of humiliation.
Yeah. He drops the giant's kinship, which is what you've been doing all of this for, going into these memories. Like this is the item that will let you see the true ending of the game.
Yeah. And it has an interesting item description. It says, each king has his rightful throne, and when he sits upon it, he sees what he chooses to see. Or perhaps it is the throne which shows the king only what he wants.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Which plays into this message, which we've seen a little bit, but not addressed so head on before, right? Which is, the corrupting nature of power. Like, is it the position that defines the person, or is it the person who defines the kingdom, right? Is
Yep.
Drang Lake shaped by Vendrick? And if so, is it, what he envisioned, or is it just, this unintentional mess? And he would have you believe it's an unintentional mess.
Yeah. It also plays into if there's not a fourth DLC and there's no kind of tying the whole story together, it plays into why, and we'll talk about this during our next episode, what actually happens when you beat the game and how this game does not end with a choice. Unlike the first one, which is, I don't care about spoilers. Like anybody who's played this far has probably beat the game. But it is that, this is kind of suggesting a little bit that it doesn't quite matter. Like any choice that you would make would be a little bit meaningless because, it is, you either see what you want to see or the throne shows you a thing. Mm-hmm. It's not for us to know, really.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. For the curse of living is the curse of want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And what else? So you can take the giant's soul, the giant lord's soul, and get the repel hex, which is invulnerability for an incredibly short time.
Yeah.
I've never used it effectively.
Yeah, it seems with how long it takes to cast, that it would be just incredibly difficult to learn to master, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one of the giants that is like super burnt up and has a super creepy face.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's a Heineken can or if that is. or
He looks like he's Venom.
Oh yeah.
He looks like Venom from Marvel. Like,
well, Gary, you have the art book, so maybe you can confirm. But I've heard that it's like the original model for the giants as they were originally designed, and then they may have censored it into the butthole faces to kind of make them a little less creepy.
yeah, buttholes are one of the least creepy things out there. They do have faces in the art book. Like they don't look quite as sinister. Mm-hmm. They look more sad.
Yeah.
In the art book.
Downtrodden and subjugated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then butthole is an improvement for those guys.
Yep. And once you leave this area triumphant with your giant's kinship in tow, if you were foolish enough to free Navlin, he will invade you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's nice how he is just waiting outside of this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you were going into dreams, man, or memories. I'm gonna get you.
I can't have that. And then there's one last little bit of wrap up that you can and should do, and we should note that there is another memory that you can go to, but it just leads to the DLCs, which we're going to talk about at length.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is Vendrick's memory, but you can fight Vendrick. And the reason why we didn't cover that when we did the episode with Vendrick is because the more giants you have on your side, the easier it is to kill him.
Right. And I don't know what that is. Like if that like just, oh, you were wrong to do this thing, and so he is humiliated. Like I don't see what the correlation is.
That was my guess. It was just a thematic, like that is a thing that he ultimately probably feels guilty about.
It was his Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be like if you had a big necklace full of ears.
Yeah.
And you were just fighting him with that. So
that's a pretty good whip design, I think.
Yeah.
The ear lash.
Yeah. Eventually they'll introduce the ear whip in one of the DLCs, all the wacky weapons.
Yeah.
But I didn't think you could do this. Like when you first get to Vendrick, they play the super sad music. So I was like, I don't want to attack this guy. This is pathetic. And then 2, he takes a long time to aggro. So when I first was like, okay, I'm going to try it. What the fuck? I attacked him a couple times and nothing happened. And I just thought like he couldn't be killed. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this was a boss fight.
Yeah.
My first time through the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. And, it very well could have been like an ancient dragon kind of thing where he doesn't mind you cutting off his tail. And obviously somebody has gone in here because where's King Vendrick's tail?
Yeah, exactly. Someone took it off and got the dragon butthole special weapon from cutting off Vendrick's tail.
Yep.
They got Solaire's secret.
Yep. Yeah. This is a hard fight.
It's interesting the way it's hard because it is hard in a way that is just there's no it's an easy fight that there's no margin for error.
Yep.
And like you just have to be good at rolling. And if you fuck it up, it's no good.
It's actually pretty similar to the Giant Kings fight a little bit, insofar as he is a big dude, very tall. His sword is taller than he is, even, and his melee attacks are pretty much is it a vertical swipe or is it a horizontal swipe? And the only real wrinkle that's on top of that is that he has a fireball that'll curse you. But if you're staying in close, you're generally pretty fine. But that margin of error comes from the fact that if you're hit once, you're fucked for life.
I've never seen him shoot a fireball.
Yeah.
I had no idea he could do that. He just when I got far away from him, he always jumped and jumped towards me.
Yep, he does that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
He's kind of a like bigger version of Havel. Like when you first encounter Havel from Dark Souls 1,
Yeah.
it's the same deal. Like no matter what, one hit you're down, and also it's not a boss fight. And technically, you can't summon anyone to help you. So he's kind of Naga Havel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not Havel from the block, but he is one of the Havels from A block.
Yeah.
The big reason why if you get hit you're kind of fucked is because if he's doing a 3-swing combo, his sword does so much stamina damage, or stamina.
I think you had it right the first time. Yeah.
However, I've been saying it. I don't care. But it does so much damage to your endurance that you will get guard broken on the first hit, and then get hit 2-shot with the next 2.
Yep.
So yeah, it's pretty tricky. Just as far as the margin for error, if you can stick to his leg and stop him from doing that jump backwards attack, you can take him out. But even I never end up having all 5 souls because I don't like killing the ancient dragon.
Right.
So with 4 souls, it's kind of a long fight.
Yeah. Did we articulate exactly how that difficulty manifests itself?
I don't think we did.
Yeah. So if you fight him with no souls, his defense is multiplied by 32, and each soul that you have cuts that in half. So down to the actual number that it should be. So if you have 4 of them, then you are only fighting him at double defense, as opposed to something that makes him effectively impossible to do any damage for. And that's probably why there's a certain number of people who might think that he is invulnerable. It's just because you do nothing to him if you don't have those souls.
Yeah, and you don't do enough damage to trigger his aggro. Initially, just because you're just barely chipping away. But yeah, it is not too. I like how I like the sad. We talked about this arena a lot. I like this little sad arena. I like Vendrick as a character. And when you kill him, what's interesting is he does not drop his soul. So, his soul is in another. It's in a Horcrux of some kind.
Yeah, it's in it's in his rumpus room in Amana.
Yeah, and he. So there's interesting kind of thoughts behind that. Why did he leave his soul behind when he went into the shrine? Yeah. And the idea that his soul that room is guarded makes sense because he's possibly because he's trying to keep anything away from Nishandra that might help her in her mission.
Yep.
And we've talked about it, that kind of theorizing that's what the point of the Shrine of Amana is.
Yeah.
Is that the Milfinito have some kind of power over the dead. It's possible that's set up as a Nishandra defense. And he's got a soul in that same area where it's a little bit more secure.
Yeah. And that also kind of is symbolic related to some of his dialogue, either in his item descriptions or what is said of him. Actually, it is his armor description. A king is somebody who carries the weight of their souls, right? So when he's making this pilgrimage down to the undead crypt to find his resting place and try and be as far away, him unloading the weight of his souls from himself is also him kind of not laying claim to the title of king anymore.
Yeah absolutely.
Yeah.
And going to go get his crown from his rumpus room ends up being important in the DLCs.
Yeah.
So
because it is one of the lost crowns.
Yeah, you want it.
Yeah.
It's a lost crown. You want it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I have no recollection, because I didn't pay enough attention when I was fighting him most recently. Is he just Vendrick on his name tag on his life bar, or is it just or is it King Vendrick?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I also don't remember. I probably didn't even think to check that.
Yeah.
It's just Vendrick. I just checked. So.
Yeah. On the wiki, it
No
says
king.
just Vendrick as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he did disrobe. In order to walk around in circles forever.
Super sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And killing him should make you feel like a shithead, but you have to do it.
Well,
And he will even
does
if
it,
you
or
go
is
back
it,
in time.
is it an act of mercy?
I think that's between you and your God, well, Ross. Yeah.
I would view it as an act of mercy. Like,
Yeah, I would too. I was just well, I was gonna transition and say that the if you go back in time, he actually tells you to go get the crowns, which we mentioned. One of them is his, and you have to kill him to go get it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we go into his memory by examining his clothes, where his cutoff dick is. And
Yeah. We go inspect his lap. The lap goes with the clothes. When you take off your pants, your lap goes with it.
Yeah. And yeah, he gives you kind of the mission for the DLCs, assuming you have purchased those and they are on your hard drive. I failed to see your designs, young moth.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it for this part. Next, we're going to do another special. We're really kindling that bonfire. So we are going to be having Lobos Jr. back, our friend and yours, to talk about speedrunning Dark Souls 2 versus Dark Souls 1. How it's different ways of doing it, etc.
Yeah. You heard his praises earlier in the episode, even.
Yeah. He is a consummate gentleman, and he is one of my favorite speedrunners and super cool dude. And I'm looking forward to talking to him again. Yeah. It's our first repeat guest in a season, but I think it's a good one. So
yeah, I can't think of anybody else I'd rather have talk about that. Well, except for the who do we have for Dark Souls 1 speedrunning? I don't think I like throw shit in him.
It was Ubergoose was good.
Yeah, Ubergoose is great.
Yeah, Ubergoose was good. Mike Villalobos also good.
Yeah,
and there's I don't know anybody who speedruns Demon Souls, so thus we didn't have those special episodes. But yeah. And then after that, we're still kind of working out our DLC stuff.
Yep.
But we will keep you updated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So Nick, where can people find you?
You can find me in myriad of places. Mainly, Comrade is probably the main thing that I'm producing and putting out on the internet nowadays. But you can also find me on Twitter myself as @NickPancakes. I'm also hanging around SA all the time and all of the Comrade social media stuff. So that's the best place to find me. And as far as things to pitch, since I know that'd be your next question, I'll go ahead and pitch on behalf of all of us the Duck stream that we are doing next month.
Yeah.
Or this month, as of the publishing of this episode.
Yeah, that's a nice segue into what we were going to promote as well.
Yeah.
So for the first 12 hours of it on November 21st, me, Gary, and Brayton will be hanging out at my apartment and playing a bunch of games. Probably mostly co-op stuff, but Gary's also going to fit in a Dark Souls 1 speedrun. And you guys should all hang out with us and donate to a really great charity that we're taking donations on behalf of.
Yeah. That charity is Transactive, which is a gender center based out of Portland that provides education and resources for transgendered youth.
Yeah, and their families. And so that you can go to Duckfeed.tv /Duckstream and find that shiny donate button. And it's a super great cause. So I encourage you to do so. And we'll probably put up some donation incentives and stuff. Right now I have the jokey one that if we get $1,000, Brady and I will shave each other simultaneously. Which I still think we'll do, even though Braden's way into these like super sharp man razors thing. So I'm a little bit scared of that.
Well, you're simultaneously scared of using one on him and him using one on you.
I'm just scared. Well, I'm scared of both, I guess.
Yep. Like I said, simultaneously.
Yeah, I am scared of both. It's going to be super weird. And like every time I brought it up, Braden's just been like, I don't want to do that, but I guess, and it's just like, okay. Because I've always wanted to shave somebody like I'm using a mirror, but they're just in front of me. Like I always thought that would be like, I don't know. Fun isn't the word, but the whatever that word is.
Noteworthy? I don't know.
Yeah, it would be a good story. Like something I don't want to do again, but it'd be a good story.
Yeah.
Like going to a strip club or the All American Magic Show.
To have on video forever. Yeah.
Exactly. So
nice.
Yeah. But that's definitely what you can do. And that's probably the big thing. All the other stuff still applies. So ratings, reviews, all that jazz. If you have questions about Dark Souls 2 speedrunning, you can hit us up at duckfeed.tv /contact. And we'll share those with Mike.
Yeah. And if you're going to be doing any holiday, Christmas shopping, whatever, go to duckfeed.tv /tipjar and use that Amazon link. It does not cost you anything extra. And that is a great way to help support the network.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Is there anything else
going
on? Yeah. Go to Duckfeed.tv /store. Buy my new record.
Oh yeah, 4GV by VG.
Yeah. That is for sale for $5 shiny. You should do it. Yeah, and that's probably it. So until next time, what should they do?
Seek misery, lest this land swallow them whole.
Umbasa.
Mbasa.